So, as I said, we have our two guest speakers this morning, Maeve Buckley and Deirdre O'Mahony. Is particularly relevant and is of great interest to many small and medium-sized businesses, and that's testament to the sign-up rate that we've had the webinar for the webinar this morning. We can all acknowledge that we're living through difficult times. Having the reassuring hand of Maeve and Deirdre guiding us through the supports that are available will be hopefully very reassuring for everybody. We here in the Ludgate, we realise the need and the value of providing our community with the information necessary to survive this pandemic. And if you're looking to stabilise your business, reopen, rehire staff, or make your premises safer within which to operate, then this event is of particular importance. There's a lot of material that we're going to cover today, so don't be upset if you don't take note of everything. There's a lot of content. But we will have a recorded version of this webinar available on our website afterwards, and we will provide contact details for the Ludgate, for Maeve at AIB, and for Deirdre at the local enterprise office, and we'll be able to make their presentation decks available as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand you over to Maeve, who is going to walk us through the supports available through from AIB, and then it will be Deirdre's turn to talk us through what's available from the local enterprise office, Enterprise Ireland, and the Cork County Council. So hopefully this is of value to all of you, and be sure to give us feedback after the event. Maeve, over to you.
Thank you, Gráinne. And thank you to Ludgate for hosting this event today. We have great numbers on the call, and I suppose AIB and Ludgate have had a long association since they started, and I'm presenting from the Ludgate facilities here this morning. Ludgate has been a fantastic addition to Skibbereen town, and I suppose it's never been more relevant. You know, Ludgate were pushing the remote working, and we've seen the huge amount of remote working that has happened since COVID started. So I'm just going to start with, I'm going to cover off the financial solutions and the government loan schemes that are supported by AIB. Some of the items that I'm going to talk about are existing options that we already have in place, and other products then were ones that were specifically designed to deal with COVID. So I suppose it's fair to say that COVID has had an enormous impact, both socially and economically, disruption across the world, and it's impacted both the lives and the livelihoods of so many people. And I suppose what I find is remarkable about this from an economic point of view is there's typically a period of decline where people had an opportunity to maybe adjust. Whereas with COVID, certain businesses no time to plan or to reorganise. And of course, there'll be other people that are on the call today that their businesses have continued to work throughout lockdown, and they too have experienced their own challenges. They had to lead in ways, I suppose, in terms of how to make businesses safe for their staff and customers, and they also have to deal with the ongoing challenges. That I went on mute in the middle of it, so I'm not sure at what point everybody lost me. But anyway, I suppose what the summary of what I'm saying is that every business has had to adapt in some way, and I'm hoping that show you how to work through that today. So some of the items that we actually looked at, and apologies now, there's just a little technical issue here again. Okay. Apologies now, I don't seem to be able to move on my screen. Okay, so so some of the items that AIB looked at putting in place was the implementation of payment breaks, the postponement of fees, supporting cash flow needs, and the enabled government-backed schemes. And I'm going to talk about the cash flow needs and the government schemes. As well as the banking supports offered, we also had to look at the wider support that we could provide within the community. And the following is an example of some of those. So we donated 450 laptops to deaf schools, 2.4 million to Trinity College to set up the AIB Covid-19 Research Hub, 390,000 was raised by staff and matched by AIB for the likes of Pieta House and Food Cloud and Alone. And also during the first lockdown, each of our 200 branches donated €1,000 each to support charities in their local communities. So here in Skibbereen, we would have donated €500 to the Skibbereen Geriatric Society, and we also gave €500 to the Skibbereen Community and Family Resource Centre. And I suppose both of these do wonderful work locally, and their services were even more required during lockdown. So if I'm just going to move on now, and I'm just going to look, I suppose, not only businesses have to readjust quickly, also governments had to respond quickly. And we can see this nightly where on our TV screens, where governments are trying to balance the health agenda with the economic impact of shutdown. So in Ireland, there's been strong financial support or fiscal support, and there was a 7.4 billion July stimulus package. One of the most recognisable government supports at the moment is the PUP, Pandemic Unemployment Payment. And recipient numbers of this peaked at nearly 600,000 in April and dropped as low then as 220,000 in September. But I suppose there's an expectation that that will rise again now, given that we're on the second lockdown. Then if you also look in that slide there's a number of other business support schemes that have been government led, and that includes the Future Growth Loan Scheme and the Credit Guarantee Scheme. And there's 0.8 billion and 2 billion respectively in those two schemes available to customers or to businesses. And there, I'm going to talk about those in more detail as we progress on. On the other side of the slide, you'll see some of the key tenets of the programme for government, and just, I suppose, AIB is working and supporting these in the economy as well, and they include reigniting the economy, the Green Deal, the Housing for All, and the National Digital Strategy. Okay, so if I now look at the various COVID-19 supports, I suppose, that are available for businesses, and we start with payment breaks. And over the months, the most requested business support we have been asked for was payment breaks. And over 17,000 business loan payment breaks were granted within that time. And we also would have offered personal lending and home mortgage payment breaks, and there was a strong uptake in both of those as well. The applications for first payment breaks are now closed, but if you're on a first payment break, you do have the option to extend that for a further 3 months for a second payment break. But if you haven't availed of payment breaks, there are other longer term cash flow options available, and as I progress through the slides, I will cover those. Then if we look on to, say, the working capital options that are available, most businesses will have an overdraft facility and people will be familiar with that. We also have a product called a business credit line, and that's a facility to fund seasonal payments, and it's a very competitive rate and it works very well in tandem with an overdraft. Other working capital facilities are prompt pay and insurance premium finance, and they're quite similar in nature actually, and what they do is they allow you to spread the cost of once-off bills, such as your preliminary tax, your commercial property rates, or your general insurance premiums, and you can put those out over 11 cash flow. There's a minimum requirement of, or a minimum borrowing amount of 5,000 on both of those. On the next section down there is Treasury Solutions, and I'm not going to go through these in detail because I suppose they really are relevant to those that are trading overseas, so maybe not to everybody on the call here today, but I'll just draw your attention to the final point there around the comprehensive or the transit guarantees. And I suppose if there's anybody that's trading into or out of or through the UK or using the UK as a land bridge, this is something that you need to look at prior to the UK exiting out of the EU on the 31st of December. One of the other items that's actually not on the screen there, but again might be relevant to people currently, is around merchant services. And I suppose businesses are evolving throughout lockdown, so it's worth considering the different options that are there. So there are options for customers to, or for businesses to set up to support distance selling, for example, to take payments over the phone, or perhaps to take payments through online. So if you're interested in those, I would suggest that you talk to your local branch and they will support you through those. Okay, so now I'm going to run through, I suppose, some of the SBCI government loan schemes. So AIB continues to partner with the government around some of the SBCI schemes that the state have brought to support business customers. And there are there's four specific products actually that I'm going to talk about today. The first is the Credit Guarantee Scheme, the second is the Future Growth Loan Scheme, and the third is the Brexit loan or the COVID-19 Working Capital Scheme. So We'll start with the COVID-19 credit guarantee scheme. First of all, I suppose, who can apply for this? Any SME or a small cap or a primary producer or clubs and associations in Ireland. So pretty much everybody on the call should qualify for that. The borrower must declare, and this is a self-declaration to the bank, that on the 31st of the 12th, 2019, it was a viable business and it was not in financial difficulty at that point in time. Also, you must declare that the business can return to viability in the future. And the third piece that you need to show is that it was a minimum of a 15% impact on your turnover or your projected turnover or your profit or your projected profit for the year 2020. So how can you apply? It's an online process. Typically, you go onto AIB.ie and there is a credit guarantee scheme option in there, and you complete the request for funding, and then somebody from AIB will contact you and progress on with your loan application. Alternatively, you can contact somebody in your local branch and they'll help you through that. The purpose, there are three different purposes that this loan can be used for. There's working capital needs, there's investment loans, or there's refinancing. And I suppose typically the SBCI products cannot be used to refinance debt. You can. So if you have COVID related expenses that you have funded through short-term facilities such as your overdraft, you can actually refinance these onto COVID-19 credit guarantee scheme loan. And I think that's quite helpful. The amounts are from 10,000 up to €1 million per business. And there are some additional criteria that restrict, I suppose, the amount you can borrow. So for example, the maximum you can borrow is double your annual wage bill or 25% of your 2019 turnover. The term is 1 year to 5.5 years. And the interest rates are very favourable, really. So up to 250,000, it's 2.75%. And for greater than 250,000, it's a max of 2.75%. One of the very attractive parts as well of this is that there is no security required to loan amounts up to 250,000. And, you know, that's beneficial, and it also helps with the speed of drawdown. So that's a nice benefit. Other items just to note in that there, if you look in the last piece, there is a premium that's payable to the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation as a contribution towards the cost of the scheme. And this contribution, this fee is based on the category of business and the duration of the facility. So if I look at Agri, it's you know, it's not particularly large. It's 0.15% for loans less than 1 year, and it's 0.68 for loans of 5 years plus. Okay. So the other thing to note about that scheme is that that's available until the 31st of the 12th, 2020. Okay, the next scheme then that we have is the SBCI Future Growth Loan Scheme, and these schemes are in place from time to time. At the moment, that is available to both SMEs and agri customers, and the purpose for this is it's around development. So things that you could borrow for are the likes of research and development, purchase of machinery, purchase of equipment, business expansion, premises improvement. So it's quite comprehensive in terms of what you can actually apply for. The loan amounts, the minimum amount that you can borrow is 25,000 and the maximum is up to 3 million. And the term here is a little bit longer. It's between 7 years and 10 years. And the rate on this is the base lending rate, which is currently 0, plus a maximum fixed margin of 4.44% for loans up to $250,000, and then a maximum of 3.44 on loans of 250,000 and above. Again, similar to the last scheme, security is not required on amounts up to 500,000 in this instance. And there are options to take interest only for up to a maximum of 2 years at the start of the loan. So with this, how you apply for this is you actually have to go onto the SBCI website first of all, and you get an eligibility. Answer some criteria just to make sure that your business is relevant. And once you get that eligibility code, you bring that then to AIB to once you have the coded eligibility, and we will progress on the loan for you. And finally, then we have the SBCI Brexit loans and the COVID-19 working capital schemes. And these are, again, for viable micro, small and SME and mid-cap. primary agriculture is excluded in this instance, and similar to the last one, you must have an eligibility code. There is some other further eligibility criteria here, and you must satisfy at least one of the innovation criteria and one of either Brexit or the COVID-19 criteria, and they're all available on the SBCI website. So loans here can be used to fund working capital or to fund innovation or change or adaptation of your business to mitigate against the impacts of Brexit or COVID-19. Again, the loan amounts are 25,000 up to a maximum of 1.5 million. And the term in this is a little shorter. So if you're looking for large amounts, it could, that's something to consider. And the loan term here is from 1 year to a maximum of 3 years. The maximum interest rate is 4% fixed for the term with no breakage costs. And again, security is not required up to 500,000. And there is an interest-only repayment option to be available at the start of the loan. So I suppose there's a lot of information in that, and you might say, well, how do I decide what is suitable for my business? And what I would say to you is, talk to your local branch, or there are a number of different options. You can go online. There's a lot of information available on the AIB website. It covers Brexit, it covers SBCI, it covers COVID. We have specific central helplines on the different items such as Brexit, SBCI. There's also the government options, or what I would also encourage you to do is to go and talk to somebody in your local branch, and if you explain your situation to us, we will be able to help you and guide you through what. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and if you want to contact us, absolutely do, and we'll hopefully be able to help you. So I'll hand you back there to Grania. Thank you, Grania.
Thank you so much for that. That was fantastic. And as I say, huge amount of material to cover, and they know where to contact you. What is the one thing that you would recommend for folks to do as they embark on trying to, get back in shape again?
I think, Grania, the most useful thing that all businesses could do, again, one of the useful things might be to do is to pull up your bank statements from last year and look to see what outgoings you have. Maybe you might have annual premiums on certain insurances, etc., etc. And to really understand more size, but it's invaluable. Really.
Brilliant, appreciate that. So thanks guys to all the attendees for giving us the feedback on the technical issues we're encountering. We're learning as we go, so it's all good feedback. So with that in mind, now I'm going to hand it over to Deirdre from the local enterprise office, Senior Enterprise Development Officer. With the local enterprise office information and support. Deirdre is now going to talk us through the supports that are available through the local enterprise office, the county council and the Enterprise Ireland facilities, and also some of those state supports that hopefully you guys can tap into. So Deirdre, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and I'm handing over to you now.
Hi everyone, good morning, and thank you so much, Grania from Ludgate. Can everyone hear me and see me? Because I know there was some volume issues with Maeve's presentation there, so I just want to make sure that you can all hear me. So yeah, just give me a few yeses or I cans. Yes, great, brilliant. Okay, well, good morning everyone, thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen here now, and hopefully this will work. Why is it not working? Here we go. Okay, can everyone see that then? I assume you all can. So as I said, thank you so much for having me today. I'm just going to talk through some of the LEO financial supports, and I'm also going to signpost you to some of the other broader supports that are available through the different agencies. This has been a really tough few months for businesses. They've had extremely challenging environment, and also there's been a lot to take on board. There's been a lot to adapt to. From a business point of view, from a government point of view, the schemes, the rules, the funds are changing all the time. So it's very hard to kind of keep up with all the changing information. And I know when you're trying to run a business and you're worried about how everything is going to pan out. It can be very, very hard to keep on top of everything. There's two main areas of information source for you. One is the local enterprise office.ie. It's the COVID response link is what you want to look at. And there's a huge array of resources there, from webinars, talks, all the data, all the information in relation to all the funds is available on that. And in addition, there's a government booklet, and I will ask Grania and the team at Ludgate to share this with you afterwards. This is updated regularly, and it supports for business. And the last update, I think, was done on the 27th of October. And because of the fact that there's all of the sports are changing so much, this is updated regularly. So it's a good link to have, and it's a good book to have to kind of look into and to see, you know, what's changing. Because since COVID has happened, there was a few initial schemes that were launched, and then there was the July stimulus package, which brought out a lot of different supports for business. And then we've just had the recent the budget as well, and that's brought out some supports as well for business, and they are only actually kind of coming through now. So once something is announced or it's publicized in the papers or on the news, it can take a while for it to kind of come down to be accessible for people, you know, to apply or to avail of it. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the supports first from the local enterprise office. Some of you are clients of ours. I know some of you have availed of some of the supports. The supports, we have been open throughout the whole COVID crisis. And I know some of you have availed of some supports. There may be others that you may be able to avail of, or there may be other supports that you're not aware of. So I'm just going to talk you through now. So the big one that obviously we've been extremely busy in relation to is the Trading Online Voucher Scheme. And this was amended. This scheme has been in existence since 2014, but it was amended this year to allow grant aid of up to 90% or up to 2,500 to facilitate any business to engage in online trading. And that can include the development of e-commerce website, it can direct marketing, advertising, social media advertising, and the development of branding, logo development, that kind of thing, as well as digital photography. Now, if you are applying for a combination of the different elements, there are certain percentages that apply. But if it's the rollout of an e-commerce website, if you want to allow customer interaction, customer booking, online shopping, then this scheme will be relevant to you. The criteria is that you have limited or no e-commerce presence, previous voucher participants. So as I said, this scheme is around since 2014. This scheme was amended on the 8th of April, but you can apply for a second voucher. You must also be employing no more than 10 employees and less than 2 million in turnover. And you must be trading for at least 6 months and apply within the LEO area that you're living. So the main things with this is you must attend the Trading Online Voucher webinar. We hold these regularly. You make an application online on our online system. It's a basic application form, and you must also seek 3 quotes from web designers to get the work done. So once you have attended the webinar, you make the application online, upload your quotes, and then the application is reviewed by us in-house here. Now, due to the volume of the number of applications, we are having like delays in processing this. So it can be 2 to 3 weeks before we will get back to you with a decision. The next webinar to note is on the 19th of November, and you can book this on our website. So the important thing is, if you are interested in applying for this scheme, as I would say to book the webinar first, and then start talking to some web designers about what you want to do with your own website, and also start talking to, you know, maybe other business people in the area about what they have done, or look at, you know, maybe other providers that maybe you would like to sort of emulate what they are offering in terms of their online presence. So that's just an important scheme to note. The next scheme is the microfinance loan. Again, this has also always been around, but they made some changes there in August. It's aimed at micro enterprises employing less than 10, turnover less than 2 million, and who are finding it difficult to access finance through the banks or other commercial lenders. And with the COVID-19 scheme that they're offering, you must have a minimum of 50% turnover, a drop in turnover or profit in the business. There's up to 25,000 available with 0 repayments and then 0 interest for the first 6 months, and then an additional 6 months interest free. So if you're interested in this scheme, if you go on to microfinanceIreland.ie and go to the COVID-19 link, and you can register there, and what they'll do is they'll send you all the details of the what you need to apply, what documents you need. There's a maximum loan of 25,000. As I said, first 6 months is interest free. If you make your application through the Leo, it's 4.5% APR. If you apply direct to microfinance, it's a 5.5%. So if you want to make an application, you can send all the details to us. We'll review it and we'll send it on to them. As I said, there's a government rebate there of which is of interest paid in months 7 to 12 of the loan, and that rebate is automatically paid to the business bank account in month 13 of the loan. So there's a lot of detail there. So I would suggest that if you're interested in that scheme, just to go online, register your interest, and they will send you all the details, and then you can talk to us if you want some more information in relation to it. The Micro Enterprise Assistance Fund, this is another new fund. This is a fund that's available for people who are looking to, who have adapted or reconfigured buildings, room layouts, signage, PPE equipment, sterilisation equipment. It's the criteria with this is you must have suffered 30% reduction in turnover, you must be employing between 2 and 10 full-time people, and you are not eligible for the COVID-19, the Restart or Restart Plus grant. This again is you can apply directly online. It's micro-enterpriseassistance.ie. And then once that application is submitted, it comes to your local enterprise office for administration, and it's based on voucher expenditure. So you can get a grant of a minimum of 500 to a max of €1,000 in respect of voucher expenditure for the equipment or signage or whatever it is that you have spent money on. So that's just one to be aware of as well. The main Leo financial supports have always been around, and they haven't changed that much. One of the main things that they have amended with it is that they have, we always had a form of refundable aid as part of our grant, and that has been removed for the business expansion grants. So this is for existing companies, potential startups that meet our eligibility criteria. It's manufacturing, internationally traded services, or innovative local services that have a potential to go national and that are not in direct competition locally. So we give priming grants, business expansion grants, up to 50k may be approved locally, and then feasibility study grants. Feasibility study grants tend to be for new or innovative type products that are not already in the marketplace, and that they need assistance to really get the market ready within, say, 9 to 12 months. Just the detail in relation to the financial supports, what we can fund within those criteria is, as I said, there's no refundable aid anymore, so it's direct 50% grant. The priming or business expansion grants can be up to 50,000, and we can consider 50% grant towards the costs associated with capital equipment, hardware, software development costs, workshop unit fit out, and then salary grants, 7,500 to 15,000 towards new full-time position, or marketing consultancy costs then. And then feasibility study would be, it's a max of 15,000 up to, say, a total cost of 30,000. And you can look at a number of different elements there: market research, consultancy, technical development, prototype, innovation, miscellaneous. And we'd also encourage people who have sort of any level of, product development to consider an innovation voucher. I know Maeve has already mentioned this, but just to highlight, obviously, the income supports from other agencies. mywelfare.ie is these are the employment wage subsidy scheme and the PUP as we know it. So both of those schemes are very important to businesses, and especially in the current lockdown for people who have lost their job. So just to be aware of those two schemes, and they are available from mywelfare.ie. The other main grant, which was announced earlier in the year, there was two, the Restart Grant and then the Restart Grant Plus. Now, the Restart Grant Plus just closed there on the 31st of October. However, they are still processing applications, so there may be people who are waiting on decisions on applications. This provides direct grant aid to businesses with up to 250 employees to help them with the costs associated with reopening or re-employing workers. The minimum was 4,000 and the maximum was 25,000. The council are now referring people on to the COVID restrictions support scheme, which is now available or being rolled out from the revenue, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But just to be aware that if there is any queries in relation to the Restart Grant, there is a specific email, restart@corkcoco.ie, because there may be some queries that people have in relation to it, and there's also some top-ups that maybe people haven't availed of yet, and I'll just go through that in a second, and they can talk to the council about what else they may be able to claim for. Obviously, there's the commercial rates waiver as well, with limited exceptions. All businesses will be granted a waiver to the 31st of December 2020. The Restart Grant Plus that I mentioned, anyone who has availed of the Restart Grant Plus, there's also a 40%, as we say, the wet pub top-up, and that's open since October 2020. So there is a 40% top-up for those businesses remaining closed and planning the reopening can now receive a minimum of 5,600 and max of 35,000 under the Restart Grant Plus. So this will help with additional expense and adaptations associated with reopening when the time comes. Again, as I said, you apply through the local authority. There's also some other measures there for the wet pubs, the nightclubs, bars, some waivers on different aspects. And then there was also a level 3 lockdown, 30% top up, and that was also open to those who received the Restart Plus grant. So anyone who received the Restart Plus grant and thinks maybe that they might also be able to access more, I would suggest that you give them a call or drop them an email just to make sure that you are claiming for everything, because some people might have applied for one thing and they haven't gone on to apply for others. So just to be aware of that. There's also a Restart Grant Plus for B&Bs, and that is, this is just another scheme to be aware of. It's 4,000 for non-rated B&Bs. Now, the application form for phase 1 was available from up to the 28th of October, but for applications for B&Bs not affiliated with Bord Fáilte, that opened, that's only opening there, I think, on the 19th of October, and that's open until the 30th of November. So just to be aware that there's a separate Restart Plus scheme for B&Bs, and that is available through Fáilte Ireland, the trade portal. Sorry, I know I've gone over my time here now. So I'll just quickly run through the rest of the slides. The Enterprise Support Grant is another scheme. This was kind of one for people who did not have rateable premises. It's sort of the man with the van scenario, tradesman. There was a once-off grant of up to 1,000 to restart the business. So there's some specific criteria associated with that, but just to be aware of that one as well. But that was administered through the Department of Social Protection and anyone who received the PUP payment. Another one to be aware of is the COVID-19 Adaptation Fund. This is for tourism and hospitality businesses, grants of 500 to 15,000 depending on the type of business. It was for capital costs and consumables, and that is also available through the Bord Fáilte trade portal. So just to be aware of that one as well. It was not a contribution, just a contribution towards the reopening cost, but as I said, 500 to 15,000 depending on the type of business and the expenditure incurred. There is another new one which is being launched, which is the Coach Tourism Business Continuity Scheme. Again, it's grant aid, it depends on vehicles, on different criteria, but that is going to be open on the 5th of November, and again through Bord Ireland or Fáilte Ireland Trade Portal. But just to be one to be aware of, because that's very specific for coach tourism, and obviously coach tourism has been completely, wiped out with COVID this year. So that's available from the 5th of November to apply. Now, this is the new one, which is just announced by the government there last week, the COVID Restrictions Support Scheme. So it's open to companies and self-employed individuals operating a business. The business itself has to be directly impacted by the government-imposed restrictions that prohibit people from, accessing their premises. There's a self-assessment of 75% disruption in turnover is required, and a cash payment equal to 10% of the average weekly value of the 2019 business turnover, and then 5% thereafter. Payments are made when level 3 restrictions or higher are in place, and the information on this is available on the revenue.ie website. So just to give you a small example of this, say they had an example in the booklet, say a new cafe in Skull, the average weekly turnover in 2020 was €700. They're restricted from opening for a period of 6 weeks. So the average weekly, it's 10%, so it works at about €600 or thereabouts for payment in respect of their business and their loss in trade. So that's just a new one that's available, and just be aware of that one. Now, I know I've probably bamboozled you there with a lot of information, but I can share this presentation with you afterwards, and we can ask Grania in Ludgate to share the booklet where you can access all the links to all the information on all of these different schemes. But for, I suppose the next step, what I'd say is go to the links provided, maybe consult with your accountant specifically in relation to the COVID restriction scheme. You can always book a business advice session with the local enterprise office. We have slots available if you need to discuss anything particular about your business. Consult your industry representative body and consult your relevant advisory agency. And there's also a business support line there from the Department of Business Innovation and Jobs. So that is my presentation. I know it's a lot, but hopefully you'll get some overview of the various supports that are available. Thank you.
Deirdre, thank you so much for that. That was extremely informative. I know ourselves here in Ludgate, we've availed of the Restart grant, and we were delighted to see the 30% top up coming through as well last week. So, and I know the online voucher has been particularly beneficial now that everybody needs to have a presence online. So it's fantastic to see the response that's out there that we can avail of. So thank you both, Maeve and Deirdre, for that very informative session. I mean, just coming from Ludgate here and how we're responding to the COVID pandemic, we are remaining open. We are an essential service, particularly for those who have no connectivity at home, who need to continue working. Obviously, we've taken the appropriate measures as recommended by the health guidelines. And so if you guys do find yourself stuck for a place to work, please give us a call and come in here. What we also have recently launched is our new individual offices. We have 8 individual offices, so from a security perspective, but also from a health safety perspective, you are not in a co-shared space, so that might be a solution that works for you. So give us a call for that. And you guys may be aware that we are pushing ahead with our Ludgate 2 efforts. So next year we will have increased space and facilities available next year. What else is happening in Ludgate? Well, obviously we've launched our Financial Insight series today. We have another webinar going out on the 25th of November, which will be focusing on the agri and the agri-tech side of things, and that is also in conjunction with AIB. And in December, we are planning to have a webinar focusing more on well-being and health as we enter the Christmas period, and how do we get through that period, which is obviously radically different to usual this year. So hopefully more to come from us from our Ludgate series, and thank you for bearing with us through some of the technical glitches. It's a learning experience for all of us. So hopefully you found that very informative, and see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.